The sun rose gently over Umuocha village, painting the clay rooftops with gold. Birds sang in the mango trees, and the sound of wooden hammers echoed from small workshops. Among the early workers was Kelechi, a young carpenter with dreams bigger than the hills that surrounded his home. His clothes were simple, his tools were old, but his heart was full of hope. Kelechi loved his work. Each day he carved wood with patience and care, building chairs and tables for people in the village. He never complained even when his pay was little. One day, he would often say to himself, "I will build houses that will stand for generations." Though life was not easy, Kelechi never lost his smile. The people of Umuocha respected his hardworking nature, but few knew how far his dreams truly reached. He wanted to study engineering, to understand not just how to build furniture but how to build cities. One cool morning as he was sweeping his workshop, a village boy ran toward him, waving a white envelope. "Kelechi. Letter for you," the boy shouted. Kelechi wiped his dusty hands and opened it slowly. His eyes widened as he read the words inside. It was from the Federal Scholarship Board in Lagos. He had been selected for a scholarship to study engineering abroad. His hands shook with excitement. His breath caught in his chest. He read it again to be sure. It was true. His dream, the one he had prayed for every night, had finally come to life. Without thinking twice, he dropped his broom and ran down the dusty road, past the market and the well, straight to his best friend's house. Obinna, his closest companion since childhood, was sitting outside fixing his radio. "Obinna?" Kelechi shouted, unable to hide his joy. "My brother. You won't believe this, I got the scholarship. I'm going abroad." Obinna looked up, blinking. "You? Abroad?" "Yes." Kelechi laughed, waving the letter. "They chose me. The government is sending me to study engineering." For a moment Obinna was silent. Then he forced a smile and stood to hug his friend. "That's good news, Kelechi. I'm happy for you." Kelechi smiled wide. "You're the first person I told. I knew you'd be proud of me." Obinna nodded slowly. "Of course. You've worked hard for it." But as Kelechi spoke about his plans, the plane he would take, the city he would see, the new life that waited for him, Obinna's chest tightened. Something heavy sat in his heart. A quiet voice whispered, "Why him and not you?" Kelechi had always been poor, simple, and quiet. How could he get such luck? Obinna, on the other hand, had finished school too but never got any chance like that. The more he listened, the more jealousy crept into his heart. Kelechi, full of excitement, didn't notice. He talked about how he would miss the village, how he would come back to build schools and bring light to the community. "We'll all live better, Obinna," he said happily. "When I return, I'll start a company and employ many people." Obinna forced another smile. "You're a good man, Kelechi. You deserve it." But when Kelechi left, running home to tell his mother, Obinna's smile faded. He stared at the dusty road and kicked a small stone. "So he'll go abroad," he murmured. "And I'll still be here, fixing radios for people who never pay on time." He sat in silence, his thoughts dark. He remembered the times they had worked together, the jokes they shared, the dreams they whispered as boys. But now, Kelechi had a future far brighter than his own. That thought stung more than he wanted to admit. Meanwhile, Kelechi ran home, calling out to his mother, Mama Namdi, who was drying cassava in the sun. She looked up, surprised. "Mama, Mama. I got it," he shouted, holding the letter out. She wiped her hands and took it carefully, her eyes scanning the paper. When she understood what it said, her face lit up with joy. "Oh, my son. God has answered our prayers." She hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. "You will go far, my child. You will bring pride to this family." That night, the little house was filled with laughter and singing. Neighbors came by to congratulate them. Kelechi couldn't sleep. He lay on his mat, staring at the ceiling, dreaming of airplanes and tall buildings. He thought of how he would send money back home, how he would make life better for his mother and for everyone in Umuocha. But somewhere else in the same village, Obinna sat alone in the dark, his radio silent beside him. His mind was full of thoughts he wished he didn't have. He tried to smile for his friend, but the green flame of envy had already begun to burn inside. He whispered to himself, if only that letter never reached him. And so began a story not of joy alone, but of friendship tested by envy, a reminder that sometimes, even the brightest news can awaken the darkest hearts. Days passed in Umuocha, and the joy in Kelechi's heart still burned bright. Every morning he woke before the sun, helping his mother with chores and then going to his workshop. He worked with new energy, humming happily as he sanded wood and tightened screws. Everyone noticed that he smiled more than usual. But not everyone shared his happiness. In another part of the village, Obinna sat quietly in his small shop, fixing a broken radio. The sound of laughter from outside made him frown. Two boys ran past, shouting, "Kelechi is going abroad. Kelechi is going abroad." He stopped his work and stared at the wall. The same thought he had tried to push away returned. Why him and not me? Later that evening, when he joined some men under the palm tree near the market, the conversation turned to Kelechi. "I heard the carpenter boy is flying to another country," one of the men said. "They say he got a government scholarship." Obinna gave a small laugh and shook his head. You people believe everything you hear," he said, pretending to sound casual. "What do you mean?" another asked. "I'm just saying," Obinna replied, leaning back. "How can a carpenter with no big connections get something like that? Maybe it's just a story." The men looked at each other. "So you think it's not true?" "I didn't say that," Obinna said with a sly smile. "But if it's real, why hasn't he traveled yet? You know how people in this village like to make noise about things that never happen." The men laughed and nodded. That's true." By the next day, whispers had begun to float through Umuocha like dust in the wind. "Are you sure Kelechi got a scholarship?" people asked one another. "Maybe he just wants attention." Some even laughed when they saw him. "Ah, our big man from abroad," they teased. Kelechi smiled politely at first, thinking they were only joking. But as days went by, the laughter turned into mockery. Even customers at his workshop began to treat him differently. One afternoon, a woman came to repair her chair. As Kelechi worked, she said, "So, carpenter, when are you flying to that big country?" He looked up with a small smile. "Soon, madam. I am still waiting for more papers from the city." She laughed loudly. "And? You mean they give scholarships to people with sawdust on their clothes now?" Kelechi's smile faded. "Madam, please don't mock me," he said softly. But she only shook her head and left, still laughing. When he walked home that evening, the road felt longer than usual. The same people who once waved at him now whispered behind his back. He could hear his name in their quiet talks, followed by giggles. He didn't understand. He had only told one person about his letter, Obinna. At home, he sat outside under the moonlight, his mother beside him. "You look worried, my son," she said. Kelechi sighed. "Mama, people are laughing at me. They say my scholarship isn't real. I don't know how the story spread." His mother placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Don't let it bother you, Kelechi. Not everyone will be happy when you succeed. Just focus on your goal." He nodded, though his heart still felt heavy. Meanwhile, Obinna's words continued to spread. Each time someone mentioned Kelechi, he would chuckle and say something small, not enough to sound cruel but enough to plant doubt. "Ah, maybe it's true," he would say. "But I heard his letter had no stamp. Let's see how it goes." Before long, even Kelechi's close friends began to wonder. Some avoided him, thinking he was pretending to be important. Only a few, like old Mama Ada, still spoke kindly to him. "Don't worry, my son," she said one morning. "People will talk whether you succeed or fail. Just keep doing good." One hot afternoon, Kelechi was repairing a motorbike when he saw Obinna walking by. For a moment he felt relieved. He hoped his friend could explain why everyone was acting strange. "Obinna," he called. Obinna turned with a smile. "Ah, Kelechi. The traveler himself." Kelechi frowned slightly. "Why does everyone keep saying that? Have you been telling people about my scholarship?" Obinna raised his hands. "Me? No, my brother. I only mentioned it once at the market. Maybe someone overheard." Kelechi studied his face. "I trusted you, Obinna." Obinna gave a light laugh. "And you still can. I'm only happy for you. You're going places." But as Obinna walked away, that same smile appeared, the one that hid his envy. The next few weeks grew worse. Kelechi began to doubt himself. What if the villagers were right? What if the scholarship was taken away? What if he never left? The joy he once felt began to fade into fear. He stopped talking about his plans and worked quietly in his shop again. Sometimes, Amina, the girl who sold roasted maize nearby, would bring him food. "You look sad, Kelechi," she said kindly. "You should not listen to people. They only talk because they have nothing better to do." Her words comforted him a little. He smiled weakly. "Thank you, Amina. I guess I learned something. Not every good news should be shared too quickly." She nodded. "True words, my friend. Some hearts cannot celebrate with you." Kelechi thought deeply about that all night. As he lay on his mat, staring at the stars, he whispered to himself, "Next time I will speak less and pray more." But the damage was already done. The gossip had spread far, and Obinna's envy had turned into something darker. What started as small whispers was now a shadow over Kelechi's joy, a shadow that would soon test his strength and faith more than he ever expected. The sun rose over Umuocha, bright and warm, but for Kelechi the days no longer felt light. The joy that once filled his heart had turned into silence. He worked in his small shop, cutting wood and fixing broken chairs, but his mind was far away. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him like shadows. "Did you hear?" some women would murmur near the well. "They say Kelechi lied about his scholarship." Others laughed softly. "I knew it. How can a poor carpenter go abroad?" It never made sense. Kelechi heard these things, but he kept his head down. His heart ached, yet he refused to argue. He believed that time and truth would speak for him. One quiet morning, as he prepared to visit the post office in the next town, he searched for his most important paper, the confirmation letter from the government. He kept it safely inside a wooden box under his bed. But when he opened it, his eyes widened. The letter was gone. He searched the whole room, lifting mats, opening drawers, checking every corner. "Mama," he called out in panic. "My letter is missing." His mother came running from the backyard. "What do you mean missing? You kept it in the box." "Yes, Mama. It was right here," he said, breathing heavily. "I checked last night before sleeping." They searched together, but the paper was nowhere to be found. Mama Namdi sat down slowly and sighed. "My son, maybe you misplaced it. Check again." Kelechi shook his head. "No, Mama. I never lose important things. Someone must have taken it." His words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. Who could have entered their small home? They had no enemies, at least that's what he thought. That afternoon the rumor spread like wildfire. People said Kelechi's letter had been fake all along. Some claimed the government had cancelled his scholarship because his documents were false. At the market, traders whispered while selling their goods. This boy tried to deceive us," one woman said. "He made everyone believe he was traveling abroad." Another replied, "I heard they found out he forged his papers. That's why he hasn't gone anywhere." Even those who once smiled at him began to turn their faces away. When Kelechi walked by, the laughter stopped and eyes followed him with pity or suspicion. He tried to greet people, but few answered. His hands trembled as he worked on his wood, but still he said nothing. Deep in his heart, he prayed silently. "God, you see all things. If I am innocent, let the truth be known." Days turned into weeks and the pain grew heavier. Some children began to mock him, shouting, "Oyinbo carpenter. When are you flying?" then laughing as they ran away. Even his customers became fewer. Some said openly, "We can't trust someone who lies." At night, Kelechi would sit by the door, staring into the darkness. His mother often joined him, her face full of worry. "My son, the world is unfair," she said softly. "But never stop believing in goodness." "I won't, Mama," he replied. "Even if no one believes me, I know God sees." Meanwhile, in another corner of the village, Obinna sat alone, staring at a folded paper hidden inside his small box, Kelechi's missing letter. He had taken it one evening when he visited under the excuse of borrowing a hammer. His plan had been simple: make Kelechi look like a liar and the village would forget about his success. At first, Obinna felt powerful. He saw how people now mocked Kelechi, and a strange satisfaction filled his heart. But slowly, guilt began to whisper in his mind. Each time he saw Kelechi's tired face at the market, his chest grew tight. Still he couldn't confess. His pride wouldn't let him. "It's too late now," he muttered to himself one night. "Everyone already believes the story. But guilt is a heavy thing. It doesn't sleep." One evening, when a group of villagers gathered near the chief's house, the talk once again turned to Kelechi. "He should be ashamed," one man said. "He made fools of all of us." Obinna stood among them, pretending to agree. But the words cut him deeply. He tried to change the subject, but the laughter around him grew. That night, as he walked home, he saw Kelechi sitting outside his workshop, alone, staring at the stars. For the first time, Obinna felt a sting of shame he could not hide. Kelechi looked up and smiled faintly. "Good evening, my friend." Obinna stopped. "Good evening," he said quietly. "You've been avoiding me," Kelechi said. Obinna forced a laugh. No, I've just been busy." Kelechi nodded slowly. "It's all right. I understand." The words were calm, but they pierced Obinna's heart like a knife. He could see no anger in Kelechi's eyes, only sadness and quiet strength. When Obinna reached home, he sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the stolen letter. He held it in his hands, torn between guilt and fear. "What have I done?" he whispered. The next day more rumors spread. Some said Kelechi's mother had been lying too, pretending her son was successful. Others claimed Kelechi had faked everything to gain attention. The village's laughter was cruel. Still, Kelechi didn't fight back. He went to church, prayed and kept working. He smiled at those who insulted him even when his heart was heavy. People began to notice his silence. It spoke louder than words. One evening, Amina came to his workshop with a small plate of food. "You haven't eaten all day," she said gently. He thanked her. "You are kind, Amina. Most people now look at me like I'm a liar." She shook her head. "Don't mind them. Truth always walks slowly, but it never gets lost." Her words comforted him. That night, Kelechi knelt beside his bed and prayed again. "Lord, I leave this in your hands. If I must lose everything for truth to win, then let it be." Far away, Obinna could not sleep. The letter haunted his dreams. He saw Kelechi's face everywhere, calm, forgiving and full of faith. Guilt ate at him like fire. The village still believed Kelechi had lied. But fate was already preparing a new turn, one that would reveal every hidden secret and restore every lost truth. For even in silence, honesty has a voice that cannot be buried forever. The morning sun shone brightly over Umuocha, and the air carried a strange stillness. People gathered in small groups, whispering about the sudden visit from government officials. 2 white vehicles had driven into the village square, drawing everyone's attention. Children ran after them, curious, while elders watched from their verandas, wondering what could have brought such important people. Kelechi stood quietly near his workshop, wiping his hands on a rag. His heart was calm but heavy. For weeks he had endured shame and silence. He had prayed each night for the truth to show itself, but he didn't expect it to come this way. The officials stepped out, 3 men and 1 woman, all wearing crisp shirts and holding clipboards. One of them called out, "We are here from the Ministry of Education. We need to speak with Kelechi Nadazi." The villagers turned to stare. Some gasped, others whispered. "They came for him? Maybe he's in trouble again," one woman murmured. Kelechi stepped forward slowly. "I am Kelechi," he said calmly. "How may I help you?" The lead official nodded. "We received reports that your scholarship documents were missing and that there were claims you forged them. We are here to investigate and clear the matter." The crowd began to buzz with excitement. People pushed closer to see. Even those who once laughed at Kelechi came running to watch. Chief Okafor, the village head, walked forward, leaning on his walking stick. "Ah, government people," he said. "We welcome you. This matter has caused great talk in our village. Please help us find the truth." The officials followed the chief to the meeting hut, where Kelechi joined them. The villagers gathered outside, waiting eagerly. Inside, one of the officials opened a file and said, "Mr. Kelechi, your name is indeed on the list of scholarship recipients. Your documents were received and verified by our office." Kelechi's eyes widened. Then, why did everyone say it was false? The woman beside the official replied, "Because someone sent an anonymous letter claiming you forged your papers. We came to see who made this claim." Outside, people murmured in surprise. Someone lied against him? But who? As they continued their questioning, one of the officials said, "Before coming here, we visited the postal office in the next town. We found that one of your official letters was reported missing. But then," he paused and looked toward the crowd outside. "We received a call that a villager found something strange." He turned to the doorway and gestured for a man to enter. It was Chibuzo, Obinna's neighbor. He walked in holding a brown envelope. "Sir, I saw something in Obinna's house yesterday while helping him fix a leaking roof. This was hidden under a wooden box." The official took the envelope carefully, opened it and unfolded the paper inside. There, in clear print, was the government seal and Kelechi's full name. The official raised his voice, reading aloud, "This is to confirm that Mr. Kelechi Nadazi has been awarded a full scholarship by the Federal Ministry of Education." A loud gasp erupted outside. People covered their mouths in shock. Some whispered, the letter was real. Others turned to look at Obinna, who stood frozen among the crowd. Kelechi turned slowly to him, his face calm but filled with quiet hurt. "Obinna," the chief said sternly, "what do you know about this?" Obinna's lips trembled. I didn't mean to." His voice cracked as everyone stared at him. "I was jealous. I only wanted people to doubt him. I didn't think it would go this far." The crowd erupted with angry murmurs. "So he was the one. How could you do this to your own friend?" Obinna fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Kelechi, my brother, please forgive me. I don't know what came over me." Kelechi looked at him for a long moment. His heart was heavy but his eyes were gentle. You were like my brother, Obinna. I trusted you with my joy. Obinna bowed his head, crying openly. I am sorry. I destroyed your name. I took what was not mine. Kelechi walked closer, the crowd watching in silence. Then softly he said, I forgive you. The murmuring stopped. Even the officials seemed surprised by his calmness. But, Kelechi continued, let this be a lesson. Not all smiles are true, my friend. Some smiles hide envy, and envy can destroy what love builds. The air was thick with emotion. Obinna kept weeping, unable to lift his head. The lead official cleared his throat and said, Mr. Kelechi, your name will be cleared publicly. The scholarship is still valid. You are expected in the city next month for your travel documents. The villagers gasped again, this time in joy. Mama Nadazi, who had been sitting quietly under a tree, raised her hands and cried out, Thank you, God. You have fought for my son. People began to cheer. Some came forward to shake Kelechi's hand, others apologized for doubting him. But Kelechi did not smile widely. His heart was both relieved and sad. He turned to the officials. Thank you for coming, he said humbly. I will prepare myself. Then he turned to the crowd. My people, today has taught me something. When you share your good news, share it with care. Even your closest friend may not be ready to celebrate with you. Many bowed their heads in shame, remembering how they had laughed at him. Some murmured prayers, asking for forgiveness. As the officials prepared to leave, Obinna still knelt on the ground. Kelechi walked to him once more and helped him up. Stand, he said gently. I have forgiven you. Now you must forgive yourself and learn. Obinna looked at him with tears in his eyes. You are too kind, Kelechi. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Kelechi gave a faint smile. Kindness doesn't depend on what others deserve. It depends on who we are. When the officials left and the crowd began to disperse, the chief called everyone together. Let this be a warning, he said in a deep voice. Jealousy is like fire. It burns even the one who starts it. That night, as the village lights dimmed, Kelechi sat quietly outside, looking up at the stars. His mother joined him, her face peaceful. You see, my son, she said softly, truth may hide for a while, but it never dies. Kelechi nodded slowly. Yes, Mama. The truth always finds its way home. In the distance, Obinna walked alone, his head bowed. He had lost his friend's trust, but he had learned a hard lesson, one he would never forget. And in the heart of Omuocha, people began to speak less and listen more. They learned that not every smile is honest and not every friend is happy when you rise. Many years passed after the incident that shook the quiet village of Omuocha. The story of Kelechi and his lost scholarship became a lesson that parents told their children. The fields had changed, new houses had risen, and time had washed away much of the old gossip. But one thing remained the same. Everyone still remembered the day truth walked boldly into the village square. Kelechi had gone abroad to study. Letters came now and then, written neatly and full of gratitude. He worked hard, studied harder, and built a name for himself as a skilled engineer. His mother often read his letters aloud to the elders, who nodded with pride. That boy, they would say, is proof that patience brings honor. Meanwhile, Obinna stayed in Omuocha. The years had not been kind to him. His once bright eyes now carried the weight of regret. He worked on the farm and helped in village meetings, but he kept to himself most days. Though people had forgiven him, he had never truly forgiven himself. Each time someone mentioned Kelechi's name, a shadow passed across his face. Then one bright afternoon, news spread through the village once again. Kelechi is coming home, shouted a young boy running through the streets. The engineer has returned. Within hours, everyone gathered near the village road. Children climbed trees to catch a glimpse. Drummers arrived, their beats echoing across the hills. Even elders who could barely walk came with their walking sticks, smiling in excitement. Finally, a shiny black car drove into the village. When the door opened, a tall, well-dressed man stepped out. It was Kelechi. His face had matured, but his eyes still carried the same calm kindness they once knew. He bowed respectfully to the elders and hugged his mother tightly. My son, she said, tears glistening in her eyes. You have made us proud. Kelechi smiled. Mama, I only walked the path that God made for me. The villagers cheered and sang songs in his honor. They offered him food, drinks, and blessings. But amid the noise, Kelechi's eyes searched the crowd quietly. Then, near a tree at the edge of the field, he saw Obinna standing alone, his head lowered. Kelechi walked toward him. The crowd fell silent, watching closely. Some whispered, wondering what would happen. Obinna swallowed hard, his heart pounding. When Kelechi reached him, he stopped for a moment, then smiled gently. "Obinna," he said softly. Obinna looked up slowly, unable to hold his gaze. "Kelechi," he said, voice trembling, "I don't have words. I have carried shame in my heart for years. Every time I think of what I did, it burns inside me." Kelechi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let it go, my friend," he said kindly. "You made a mistake, but you are not your mistake." Obinna's eyes filled with tears. "You still call me your friend?" "Yes," Kelechi replied. "Because friendship is tested in storms, not in sunshine." The crowd, still watching, murmured softly. Some nodded, others wiped their eyes. Kelechi turned toward them and spoke clearly, his voice calm but firm. "My people, when I left this village, I carried many lessons with me. But one stands above all: good news grows best in silence." The villagers listened closely. The drummer stopped playing. Even the wind seemed to still. Kelechi continued, "When you share your blessings too soon, you open the door for envy, doubt, and harm. Not every ear deserves to hear your joy. Some ears listen not to celebrate you, but to destroy what you build." He paused, then smiled faintly. "But silence protects your dreams until they are strong enough to stand on their own." Obinna nodded slowly, understanding more deeply than anyone else. Kelechi looked back at him and added gently, "And when your blessing finally blooms, let the world see the flower, not the seed." The elders clapped softly, approving his wisdom. Chief Okafor, now older and slower, raised his voice. "Kelechi, your words are true. We have learned from your story. May this wisdom never leave our hearts." The villagers cheered again, this time not out of excitement, but out of respect. They danced and sang songs of gratitude, celebrating not just Kelechi's success, but the lesson he had brought home. Later that evening, after the celebration ended, Kelechi and Obinna sat under the old mango tree near the workshop where everything had begun. The stars shone brightly above them, and the sound of crickets filled the night. Obinna broke the silence. "Do you ever wish you hadn't told me about the scholarship?" Kelechi smiled. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But if I hadn't, I might never have learned the true meaning of trust." Obinna sighed deeply. "You lost your peace because of me." Kelechi shook his head. "No, Obinna. I found something greater: wisdom. Life teaches us through pain. The wound you gave me became my strength." Obinna looked away, tears in his eyes. "You are a better man than I could ever be." Kelechi smiled softly. "No. I just chose peace over pride. That's all." They sat in silence for a while, the night calm around them. Somewhere in the distance, a drumbeat echoed faintly, a song of peace, a reminder that even after betrayal, forgiveness could still grow. As Kelechi prepared to leave for the city the next day, he visited the village square one last time. The children waved at him, shouting, "Engineer Kelechi, don't forget us." He laughed and handed out small gifts, toys, pencils, and sweets. His mother walked beside him, her heart full of pride. "My son," she said softly, "you have become a light to this village." Kelechi looked around at the smiling faces and nodded. "Mama, light shines brighter when it comes from darkness." When he finally entered his car, he turned back to wave. The villagers waved too, shouting blessings. But before he left, he looked one last time at Obinna, who stood quietly under the mango tree. Kelechi smiled and said, "Guard your dreams, my friend. Speak less, work more, and let your success do the talking." Obinna nodded, his eyes wet but peaceful. "I will never forget." As the car drove away, dust rose behind it, and the people of Omuocha stood watching until it disappeared down the winding road. That evening, as the sun set over the village, the elders gathered by the fire, telling the younger ones, "Remember Kelechi's words, good news grows best in silence." And so, from that day onward, the people of Omuocha learned to speak softly about their dreams. They shared less, worked harder, and celebrated quietly until their blessings were strong enough to shine on their own. And every time someone asked why, the elders smiled and said, "Because we once knew a man named Kelechi, the boy who taught us that not every ear deserves your good news."